Moving from academia to industry is challenging. Dear listeners, welcome to the Life Career Job Podcast. Join us as we explore the inspiring journeys of STEM PhD scientists who have successfully transitioned from academia to the dynamic world of biotech, biopharma, VC, and beyond. Discover the diverse roles of our guests as they open up about their current and past positions. They shed light on their day-to-day responsibilities, the impact of their work, and their work-life balance. Whether it's in research and development, leadership roles, or even investment banking, each episode provides a unique perspective on the thriving opportunities within these roles. We'll also bring you expert advice on everything from how to dress for an interview, how to negotiate your employment package, how to ask for a promotion, and beyond. Life Career Job is a platform that we are building to help you navigate the challenges of finding your dream STEM job and building your ideal career path so that you can have the whole life that you want. We hope to serve as a beacon of guidance and inspiration in the tumultuous seas of STEM career path exploration. I am your host, Dr. Yamina Bershish, a passionate advocate for career advancement and the creator behind the very successful Dr. GPCR podcast and ecosystem. I obtained my PhD in biochemistry at the University of Montreal. This was followed by 2 postdocs, one at the Rockefeller University in New York City and a second at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Less than 11 months before COVID-19 hit, I moved to a senior scientist position at a small biotech company here in the Boston area. Since then, I've worked in sales and marketing at a global life sciences company and in commercialization at a nonprofit organization. And I am now back in the exciting world of biotech. I've also established Dr. GPCR, a not-for-profit ecosystem dedicating to uniting stakeholders with a shared interest in G protein-coupled receptors, also known as GPCRs. GPCRs are a family of proteins that allow you to see, smell, and taste, and are also targeted by almost 50% of FDA-approved drugs. Driven by a mission to improve human health through collaboration and innovation in GPCR drug discovery, Dr. GPCR serves as a nexus for scientists and stakeholders from academia and the private sector, fostering dialogue and catalyzing progress in this vital field. With Life Career Job, we aim to empower you, STEM PhD professionals, in your career journeys. In the episodes to come, I will have the privilege of engaging in candid conversations with guests from diverse careers, each offering invaluable insight and wisdom gained from their personal journeys. Together, we would unravel the intricacies of career trajectories, sharing practical advice and inspiration to embolden you in forging your own path towards professional fulfillment. As we launch into this exciting endeavor, I invite you to join us on this journey of discovery. Subscribe to our podcast on your preferred platform and explore our website, where we endeavor to extend our support beyond the confines of the airwaves. Stay tuned for more as together we navigate the boundless horizons of career and life fulfillment. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, everyone. This is Yamina, and welcome to another episode of Life Career Job. Today, I have with me Dr. Joe Perez. Joe, welcome.
Hi, it's nice to be here, and I'm happy to be here and just ready to share my story and talk with you, Yamina. I'm really excited.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm very excited also to chat with you. So how about we start at the beginning? Would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Joe Perez. I am a PhD. I'm a scientist in molecular biology and immunology. I have research experience in both for over 5 to 10 years, depending on the topic. I did research in genetics, microbiology, virology, and specifically my PhD, I did it in micro and immunology at the University of Pittsburgh. And then after I did that, I did a postdoc for 2 years at the University of Pittsburgh as well, a little bit outside of my comfort area in cancer immunology and metabolism. But it was nice to explore new things, and it kind of led me to where I am today, which is I'm an account manager with Vector Builder. I wanted to make a transition from academia to industry. That's why I'm here now. And my daily activities now are I communicate with clients either by email, by virtual talks. I provide some sales support, some troubleshooting support, or just some consultations on their projects and how Vector Builder can help them. And it's just really cool to be able to have those conversations with my clients, and basically I see them as collaborators at this point, and it's just really cool to be able to have all those scientific communication with them and just continue to talk science outside of academia.
Thanks, Joe. I really love that you did a year or two a postdoc in a completely different on a completely different topic, which made me think, did you always know you wanted to be a scientist?
I think so. So when I first started science was in my undergraduate career. So I went from high school to my undergraduate thinking, okay, I want to do science. But just a little more background. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. So I did my studies at the University of Puerto Rico at Calle, and they had a general science program. And it was mostly, if you took that program, you were going into medicine. And then when I went into that field, I realized, okay, so there's other opportunities in science. And fortunately, there was a very nice program at the university. It was called RISE. So it was like a research initiative for underrepresented students to do research experience is during the summer in the States. So I was able to fortunately participate in a couple of those summer programs. And after my first one, I was like, research is so cool. I want to go into research.
I love
So
it. I love
yeah,
it.
I
Go ahead.
kind of. No, I was just gonna say that. So yeah, kind of. I've always knew I wanted to do science, and it's just interesting the journey I've taken to where now I'm doing a little bit of completely different science, but
Yeah.
still in that scientific community.
No, I agree with you, and I love it when there are these types of programs where they give you the opportunity to go and experience things. During my undergrad, actually not true. During my graduate studies, I was part of this um group at the University of Montreal where I studied, where you could have summer students come in for a day or 2 days, and these were high school students. And some of them purified DNA, and they left the lab with a little sample of DNA in an Eppendorf tube. And I don't know what happened to them, but what I'm hoping is that that inspired them to get into
Right.
science. I mean, obviously you were at a more advanced level, and then but you got to experience what life in the lab is,
Hmm.
and it actually helped you make a career decision.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, at that time, there weren't that many opportunities for that. Those just started to grow as I started my undergrad, and those came into light because I did like come to the university every now and then when I was in high school just to do like basic lab stuff, like put antibiotics on a microbiology plate, see what bacteria it killed, like really basic stuff. But once
Yeah.
I got into the nitty gritty of what really goes on in a research lab, I just fell in love with it. And yeah, just having those opportunities, you'll see like students will get very excited about
Yeah.
doing science. And I had like a similar opportunity when I was in my PhD. I was working as a teaching assistant for a medical microbiology class, and these were med students, so they weren't going to go on to do full science, but they did like cute stuff like do drawings on their bacterial plates, and then like really got into looking at the microorganisms on the microscope, and it really just gave me a lot of pleasure to see other people enjoying science.
I love that. How did you pick your PhD, or when did you know that you wanted to do a PhD?
I think I knew probably my third year into my undergrad. So at that point, I had done like a couple summer research programs. Then I started doing research at my home institution in Puerto Rico. We had an affiliation with HHMI, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and they had opportunities for undergrads to do research. And then I also was part of another education program, which was the Genomic Education Partnership. So that let you do like bioinformatics and on Drosophila genomes. And I got really good at that. And the PI I was working with was like, hey, you're really good at this. So I want you to be a teaching assistant. So in addition to doing that research, I really got to like teach science as well. And that just made me grow more in love with it and decide like, I think I really want to do like science as my career.
I love it. Love it. So you've completed your PhD. Today you work at Vector Builder. What happened between the moment you defended your thesis to today? And it highlights, because we're going to go back a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, no. So when I was finishing up my PhD, um, unfortunately, it was also during COVID, so it was like a little bit of a weird transition. I actually defended my thesis virtually from my home because we were still not allowed to do in-person talks. So I did defend my thesis, and I worked like 6 more months in my PhD lab while we were wrapping some things up. And at that point, I was just working like as a lab tech due to like funding constraints. And then I moved on to do a postdoc. And the reason I did that was I wasn't 100% like I really enjoyed what I was doing in my PhD lab, honestly. I was doing a lot of molecular biology, cloning, virology experiments. And this was something I really, really enjoyed. And then unfortunately, due to like funding constraints, I did have to move into a postdoc position. Plus, that's kind of like what the next step in academic idea was at that time, or still is,
It still
honestly,
is.
for those people that want to go into it. But for those people who are not and might want to try something different, well, now there's industry opportunities. So they've really always been available. It's just that maybe networking opportunities are a little bit hard to find, or maybe some PIs put a little pressure on to go into academia. Fortunately, my PhD advisor, he was very open to whatever I wanted to do. He just really wanted me to continue right in science and do something that I would enjoy.
Yeah.
So um, I knew I needed to do something. So I thought the easiest at the moment was just, hey, let's apply to a postdoc. It's in the same building that I'm at. It's in a new field. So I was like, maybe I just need to try something new to kind of get like continue that spark for academia. And I went on to do like researching cancer metabolism. So a lot more like mouse models and tumor models. And I started to work in the lab. And I did enjoy learning a lot of new things, but I really missed like the molecular biology aspect that there was to it. I didn't get to do a lot of that. I did more immunology, which I definitely loved as well, but I didn't feel, we could say, as happy as I did like during my PhD. And I also was kind of starting to wonder, like, I don't know if academia is for me. So after that, and also like a couple of like life choices with me and my wife. So my wife was a medical student, or is, well, she just finished like her medical rotation, so that's great. But she was in a program where she actually did like clinical rotations throughout the US. So unfortunately, at the time we were doing like long distance because she had to go in different places like Georgia, Miami. Now it's fixated in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
where I did my PhD. And then part of one of the reasons of wanting to move to industry was to be a little bit more flexible so I could see her more often. And then I even started learning about remote opportunities for science work. And I had a friend who graduated from the PhD with me. He was doing something in medical writing. And he's like, hey, look, this actually is pretty interesting. We do this, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, that sounds interesting. So I'm going to start looking at different opportunities, both remote and in person. So I was offered to do something in person in Pittsburgh, like in T cell work, but I was also offered a position at Vector Builder, which was remote and kind of fit more with the lifestyle I wanted to have with my wife and my family. So I chose that. And then I just ended up loving working at Vector Builder. It really fit my needs at the time, and it still does. And although I'm not doing wet lab science right now, I still get to talk science. I still get to communicate. I still get to brainstorm ideas with my clients and really collaborate with people to try to bring to fruition what they want to do in the lab and translate it into data and publications.
I love it. You touched on so many points, which is fantastic because now we can just unravel the whole
Digest
thing.
it, yes.
Digest it, but also highlight a couple of these. I think,
Mhm.
and you're right, I think in academia, there isn't, from the universities themselves, there isn't enough emphasis put on the fact that you can be other than a professor.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a professor, but there's also nothing wrong with not wanting to be a professor.
Right.
Now, networking. You had a friend who told you, hey, all of these opportunities are here, and that's important. And I think networking is a very important thing. So I want to hear more, a little bit more about the differences as to how you networked before your work at Vector Builder, and how do you think about networking now?
Okay, yeah, for sure. So again, like before Vector Builder, networking in my head was more, okay, let's go to scientific conferences, see what other scientists I could talk with, and just maybe try to make connections that I can use for my projects that I'm working on and how I can further develop my research, right? Now working at Vector Builder, I still kind of feel the same way where I want to meet with different researchers and scientists. But now I want to just learn as much as I can about their research and how I can benefit them. So I think it's a similar way, just the mindset of I guess it's funny to say, but it's I guess a little less selfish, and it's a more of wanting to like help out the whole scientific community in a at all, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing in on like, okay, I know I can network with these people, help them, and they'll also help me. But now I
Yeah.
really am like focusing on just being able to outreach and help as many people as I can. And
Yeah.
not just outside of them being clients of mine, opportunities like this, for example, and the opportunity I took with Alex, who
Yeah.
connected us. I really wanted to show other people that, hey, it's
Sure.
okay to like think outside the bubble, and there's other opportunities out there. And I've always had that mindset of wanting to help people because I've also done a lot of teaching assistant positions while I was in both undergrad and graduate school. And I really, really do like just helping people out.
I love it. And the reason why I asked this question is because I feel like in academia, most of us, and I'm talking here from my own experience, I was always focused on finishing up, doing this experiment, doing that experiment, and really micrometer focused on my project.
Right.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one. And what I've realized later on when I moved out of academia is actually you have to lift your head up and look around.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know who you're going to meet. You're going to meet somebody who you can help. Maybe years down the line, they might be able to help you or not, but at least you've helped them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you grow your network. This is how you get to meet new people, interesting people. And what goes around comes around. So with time, I think if we foster this aspect of helping people and just showing interest in what they're doing, I think that helps long term in general to advance science. Because, for
Yes.
example, as you mentioned, Alex did introduce us, and we just met maybe 22 minutes ago before
Right.
we hit record, but we're already hitting it off. And next time I need something, I know who to go to.
Exactly. No, it's definitely a whole different experience. And as I said before, like I was more focused on like trying to find opportunities network, and now they just come naturally working at Vector Builder. Like since I've had such positive experiences with clients or with other people that I've worked out, they just say, "Hey, Joe, I want to introduce you to this person." Now and it's like, cool. It's just another person I can talk to and potentially help out.
Exactly. One other thing I wanted to take a moment and talk about, you mentioned, and thank you for sharing the long distance and the difficulties with your difficulties. Well, the situation with the fact that your wife has her own career and she had to travel. And I think one thing I want to talk about maybe is how people can, whenever they're looking, let's say I'm a postdoc, I'm thinking about leaving academia. What are the top couple of things, 3 to 5 things that I should be thinking about in order to make that switch to industry, in your opinion?
Right. I definitely think that if you have a family, that's something you always need to keep in mind. Like, I'm not saying like we weren't happy before we were together, right? But being able to support each other in the
Yeah.
same location is just so beneficial, and it's honestly at least made my work life happier because I don't have to say like come home from a stressful day and just like have to wait to pick up a phone call or sit on in front of a
Yeah.
computer to talk with my significant other. So I think that's definitely very important. Obviously, another point would be still choose things that can advance your career. So look for opportunities to grow as a person, as a scientist. Another point is look for a job that makes you learn new things. Definitely, when I came into Vector Builder, I had to learn a lot of new things about like the sales aspect because I knew a lot of my science, right? That's why I was hired as a molecular biologist. But I was able to get trained on that and learn, and it really was very helpful. And it was very fun to learn these new things. And that's something I always kept in mind during my PhD and my postdoc as well. I always wanted to learn new techniques. So keeping something that keeps you thinking, learning is always a good motivator because you'll never feel really bored, let's say. So
Yeah.
I think those are three pretty big points I would consider when looking for a new position. And then let me see if I can think of anything else. Not really. I don't know if there's anything you want to add,
I
Yamina.
think one thing to add is to try and think about this as early as possible, because
Yes,
networking is important, and you need to be able to talk to people. You need to have time to develop these relationships, so that when you're ready to make the jump, then you can put the word out, or ask,
exactly.
and say, hey, I'm thinking about this in the next year or so. Here is what I have, here's what I'm thinking about. And I think even being able to talk to people who have a role that you think might be interesting, and
Yes.
having these conversations to better understand, which gets me to my next question. What does your day look like? This is important for people to know as well.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And just quickly to touch on like what you just mentioned too was that, yeah, it's good to put some time between things because don't think as well that, oh, a job opportunity is going to come in a week
Yeah.
or two.
Yeah.
When I was making that transition into industry, I saw that the job hunt was a lot more
Yeah.
harder than what I thought it would be, honestly. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you move through academia, there's maybe some connections that your PI has, right, with someone. But like you said, if you network in opportunities in industry, you might find similar connections, right?
Yeah.
And um, like when I was talking with my friend, he introduced me to some opportunities for job searches that were remote. And then I was able to dive into that and finally find a field where I could fit in. And then so yeah, that kind of took me to where I'm at now, a vector builder, and kind of to go through what a day in my life looks like is that I'll go through my emails in the morning, try to figure out, okay, uh, what inquiries do I have from clients that may have come in from late afternoon, overnight, and then we work with a production team as well. So any issues that have come up or any updates that I have asked our team to provide, usually those come in the morning. So I try to read through all those as soon as I can so that I can give my clients the updates right away. And that's something that I have, well, I've gotten a lot of praise from my clients is that, Joe, you're always giving me the updates on time. You're always very responsive. So I really appreciate that. So that's why I really try to take care of that during the morning because it's very helpful. So then as the day comes in and clients are emailing me on the spot or want to meet me on the spot, I'm available for them. So being available is very important for me to do this job. And then other aspects of my day are, like I mentioned, meeting with clients virtually. So we might want to talk about a project, talk about how ordering a vector or a virus with us, how that will advance their research in the lab, and just touching on the nitty gritties about the experimental design, providing some feedback on, for example, today I had to really dive into what lentivirus packaging was and how to use that to make stable cell lines because that was something I did all the time during my PhD. So that was one example where I can day by day just highlight my skill set in the lab to my collaborators, which are my clients, and really help them out. Say like, hey, look, I have experience in this, so let's sit down, have a conversation. I can help guide you through the experiments and provide that consultation so that they can move forward. And then obviously we have since I'm in a more sales role, right? We have weekly sales meetings with our whole team, with our some marketing teams as well. We have meetings so that we can keep up to date with what's coming out at Victor Builder, and yeah, and just I also meet with several of my sales team members daily, like to just bounce ideas off each other, or if we need to give each other backup, sorry, we can do that.
Bad comments. I'm kidding.
You're like not working hard enough. No. We're very friendly, all of us, and that's something that I really do appreciate from my team. Like, if anybody has a problem, we can go to each other, and it's solved right away. Like we give each other that feedback, like, oh, I'm having trouble with this particular topic. Who's the expert on this? Because vector builder pretty much is just a group of scientists that are working for other scientists. So we have people that are experts in all different fields. Like I'm really an expert in molecular cloning and virology, specific lentiviruses. So I've had people come to me about stable cell line questions. But if I need to get more specific questions about mRNA, then I'll collaborate with my team members so that I can learn a little bit more about that so that I'm better prepared to talk about it with potential collaborators or clients.
I love it. And I haven't spent almost a year and a half in the sales team at Appcam. I really, really enjoyed it. And what you just described looked pretty much like my day as well. And we had a couple of, I want to say, veterans who you
Mm-hmm.
would go to, and those people would give you all the information you needed. And it sometimes it was so simple,
Right.
but you needed to have that experience in sales to
Yeah,
get
no,
there.
for sure. And like we said before, I'm sure it was similar to you. Like you came from a very scientific heavy background and
Yeah.
just really needed to pick up the sales parts, which is not hard at all, right? As long as you have a good team that helps you like get through the training and get through like tips on how to work with people. And at the end of the day, if you have good people skills, it will be work out for you.
No, I agree. I agree. And it's so interesting because I don't know about you, but when I was looking for a job in outside of the lab, I want to say in industry, okay, it was during COVID, so maybe that didn't help.
Mm,
But it was such a difficult sell in the sense that people would tell me, "Oh, you're a bench scientist, you have a PhD, so you can't sell." And my counter argument was always, yes, but I am talking to myself when I talk to these customers because your
mhm.
customer is me. I have been there.
Yes,
And
100%.
you've done that, you've had that conversation, and I had amazing support of my team, my manager. I think the first 2 weeks they bombarded me with trainings, and I was like, keep it coming because
Right.
I want to learn all these things,
Exactly.
and that allowed me. But once I want to say once I made that jump, and now it's reflected on my LinkedIn that I've had that experience, then for the next job, it was much easier
Yeah, I agree.
because I don't know about you on your end when you were looking for positions.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, being able to see it from the other side just makes it easier, right? To
Yeah,
say, like, hey, I can do this because
yeah,
I know my science stuff. And at the
yeah,
end of the day, people just feel more comfortable talking with someone who can relate, right? They like, oh, you've been in the lab. You know what I'm doing, actually.
exactly.
So when one of the things that happened when I was interviewing Vector Builder was that really shined and was highlighted, and both Vector Builder and I quickly were able to see that we were really a good match for each other.
Yeah,
And same thing goes with all my colleagues. They're all very smart people and they all know their science. So it's really easy for them to communicate with people and figure that out.
yeah,
So yeah, when I was looking for jobs, I think Vector Builder was the one where I saw, okay, I think my skill set best clicks here.
yeah,
Because at the other places I was looking at, there was a few opportunities where I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be completely happy there. I
yeah,
know it will let me be flexible, but what the description of the job is like, I'm not sure if I would want to do that, honestly.
yeah.
And once I heard what I would need to do in Vector Builder, and once I start working here, I'm like, I love it. Definitely made the right choice.
I think that's very important. I always tell people, and people smile when I do that. When I say this, is I feel like finding your next position is kind of like dating.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like the other party, it's a very, very long date and
Mm-hmm.
an unpleasant one. So I think it's important. And the other thing is that it's very hard sometimes to tell if I mean, very quick, if you go into an interview or a series of interviews, I think if you don't click with the other with the interviewers or with the company, that's very easy to pinpoint. And then you can very easily say, well, no, thank you. Or
Right.
they can say the same thing about you because you are
Right. Goes
interviewing
both
them
way.
exactly as much as they're interviewing you. But when it clicks, also you can also feel that. The difficulty is when you're unsure.
Right.
And that's when there is a lot of ways to asking questions about company culture, about the team spirit, and I don't want to say the details, but the maybe the important things
Right.
other than the actual factual job itself.
Yes, 100%.
Cool. All right. So I have a question here, and
Sure.
the first, since we're recording episode actually 4, we're our third guest for this new podcast. The question is, how did you plan your career trajectory? Before you answer, my first two guests said I didn't. It kind of just happened.
Yeah, well, and that's honestly true. Well, similar to
Yeah.
what I had said before, like I was finishing on my PhD and I was like, I have no idea what I really want to do next. And that kind of defaulted to like, well, I guess I'm going to do a postdoc now and see where it goes. And then I quickly noticed that that was not what I wanted to continue to do. So once I started exploring these opportunities outside of academia, is where I really started to make a better trajectory of what I wanted to do. And it was okay, I think I do want to leave academia and I want to do something that still lets me do science, maybe not at the bench anymore, but science is not just at the bench, right? It's communication, it's collaboration,
Mm.
it's ideas, brainstorming. So I can still do that at my current job and I'm happy doing that. So like they said and I said like maybe we didn't really plan it out, but
Yeah.
we got where we probably want to be. And I know there's still years for me to keep growing, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping a lot of those years will be at Vector Builder because I'm still very happy where I'm currently at.
Yeah.
And that even saying that there's still opportunities to grow within the company. So I'm super excited for that. And I've only just been with them a year. In December was my first year anniversary. And honestly, it felt so short. So that just goes to show that I think I'm in the right place because it felt comfortable and likable that I can say, oh, okay, time flew by.
Nice. I love that. I love that. And you made a great point about, I think people sometimes don't think about the fact that you can, just because you're entering into a company in a specific role, that doesn't mean that you're going to always continue at the same company in the same role. There are a lot of
Right.
growth opportunities in many companies. So you may have actually our next guest. I'm not going to say who because in the meantime, we might record other podcast episodes. But the next person who accepted my invitation was mentioning that they've been at the same company with 4 different titles already because they've changed roles,
Right.
which is really fantastic. Because then you're already know what the company is like, you know who you're going to be working with, and it gives you opportunities to learn new things and try out new things within the same environment.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Another question I had for you is you mentioned you're remote, which helps a lot. I was remote for the year and a half at AppCam, which I really enjoyed because it was COVID and I didn't have to go anywhere. And I honestly, although I met my colleagues at AppCam back in the day maybe twice in person,
Mhm.
the first time I met them in person felt like we've always known each other because we were such a great group together.
Yes.
So how do you typically juggle, well, how do you juggle with your obligations between work and life, knowing that you're working remotely at the moment?
Right. No, I think I do a pretty decent job at it. I have like my office little area set up in my home where I can just like sit down there, work throughout my day, and then at the end of my work day, just disconnect and go ahead and play with my dog, do some stuff that I want to do, spend time with my wife, have a nice meal, and at least being able remote and being able to disconnect so easily helps to like transition. I know I've heard other experiences from other people where it's a little harder to make that disconnect,
Yeah,
but I think just having like a designated work area helps with that. Um, yeah, I honestly feel like I don't have too much trouble uh,
good.
managing it to like being remote. We also as a team have weekly conversations. We also have like team building activities. So that helps me feel like I have a nice little office work
Yeah.
relationship, even though we're not all together.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, we did have an opportunity to meet last summer, and it was like we all knew each other, hugs everywhere. We enjoyed everyone's time, and it was really fun to meet up and just hang out.
I love it. I love it. And the other thing I was gonna say, actually, I forgot my train of thought, but just listening to you takes me back to those times where yes, we were remote. Yes, I remember now. I have trouble, for example, disconnecting from work, although I have a dedicated desk and a dedicated
Hmm.
office. Um, I think in my case, I love it so much. I love my current job so much that I think about it. Sometimes I find myself thinking about it. Just to give you an example, I had a task that I wanted to finish on Friday, which I couldn't. And I said, it's okay. I can do it maybe over the weekend, which I never do, or I don't work unless I really, really have to. And then last night at 9 p.m., it just hit me that I forgot to do it.
Right.
So all day I was like, okay, I have to do this. First chance I got, I'm opening the file. It was just filling out this thing. And then I thought I was going to be the last one. And when I saw it, I was the first one to actually do it. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so next time don't stress out.
Yeah.
Fill it out until 5 p.m. on the
Yeah.
day of the deadline.
No, and I get that, and I do say that like I didn't really have a lot of issues disconnecting, but I did when I first started working have like a little bit of issue um like you could say maybe like working too hard, right? Where
Yeah.
I would extend my time into maybe 2 hours more after a workday, doing a couple of extra things,
Mm.
or I really wanted, like you said, like I have said before, I really like to help people. So well, sometimes I would get like a later night email and be like, oh, I got to answer their email right away. It's just, I don't know what they need. And
Yeah.
then as time went by and Vector Builder really wants to promote a healthy work life balance. So they would tell me, like, Joe, you do not need to do that. Please rest up. It's okay. Like, if you don't get to something on the weekend, and like, if it's super urgent, then feel free to answer it, but you don't have to, but it can wait to next week.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm at the point now where I'm okay with that. Like at the very beginning, I think it also had to do with like transitioning from like academic life. Sometimes as postdocs and grad students, we did have to work
Yeah.
really late hours, or we did have to come on the weekend.
Yeah.
And sometimes we even felt bad about taking days off, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
working in this industry now, at least me and Vector Builder, I don't feel that pressure anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, no, we do have time allocated to like for ourselves. I can take this day off without feeling like I'm letting my whole team down. And they really help and support me. They'll be like, okay, we're gonna get someone to cover for you. Don't worry about it at
Yeah.
all, and then just go and enjoy your time off or
Yeah.
your rest up at the end of the day. So like although I felt like it wasn't an issue at first, like I can look back at it and be like, okay, yes, maybe you were still in that postdoc grad school mentality and you were slowly shifting out of it.
Yeah. Good for you, because apparently even 10 years after it, I'm still not shifting out of it. And to your point, I don't like, it's so funny because I'm always told you, you don't have to work on the weekends, just, and I have to say right now I have this amazing team and the luxury of, as long as the job is done, it doesn't matter where it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And if one morning I need to take the morning off for any given reason, there's never going to be a problem, you
Right.
know. So that's great. But I think sometimes I get so excited about the work that I do that I
Yes.
have such a hard time to disconnect, and I have to be very mindful about it. And that's one of the reasons I brought it up, because as you mentioned, as a postdoc or as a PhD student, very often you find yourself in the lab late, or you find yourself in the lab over the weekend. I have to say, after 2 or 3 failed experiments during a weekend, I decided I would not be working on the weekends anymore during my postdoc. But I did. It's a lesson, and it's something that needs to be paid. You have to learn it basically to
Yes.
pace yourself.
For sure. It definitely helps you with burnout. If anything, you'll be more tired during the week if you don't take that time to yourself. And
Exactly.
it really will eventually affect your performance or just
Exactly.
make you feel a little bit not great with yourself, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. No, which again, I was mentioning this because I do know that I have to pace myself, and now I have to think, stop and say, okay, how urgent is this? Is it in your head, or is it actually very urgent for you to answer these questions?
Right. I think what one thing I'm fortunate about helping me transition through that was now that I was living with my wife, since I started a vector builder, she was like, "Do you really need to be answering those emails at this time?" And then she's like, "Dude, take a break." And I'm like, "Okay,
Exactly.
yeah." Yeah, so
No,
having someone from like the outside pointed out to me as well, it was helpful.
exactly. No, I have to agree. I have two kids, and at 5 p.m. they're already banging on the door. So there's no way for me to do anything. I'm like, okay, just relax, just sit with me. And I'm like, okay, it can wait. Because obviously spending time with the kids is way more important
Of
than
course.
hitting send. All right. What is your advice to people who want to build a career in your industry?
Yeah. So my advice is to honestly just go for it, right? Try new things. It might be a little bit scary at first to get out of your comfort zone, but eventually you need to try to learn, right? And do stuff that's out of your comfort zone to see if you really like it, or if you can just be like, okay, maybe that's not interesting. I can continue in this field of academia because I think this is where my heart lies, right? And
Yeah.
honestly, that soul searching is just what you need to help
Yeah.
develop your career. Just find what makes you happy. And to be able to do that, just do outreach, right? Reach out to people who work in different fields, learn about what they are doing, see yourself in that role. Would you like it or not, right?
Yeah.
And like you said before, networking is just so important, especially if you want to kind of go outside of your comfort zone or this academic bubble, right? And just try to learn what other opportunities are out there. So really it's my advice is just explore, find out, and try to find what you love, right? If it's already what you're doing, then hey, you gave something else a shot. That's kind of like what I did with my postdoc, right? I went to something that was a little bit different in my immediate research field. And then it didn't make me even want to come back to like the research I was doing in my PhD. It just showed me that I think I really want to explore something related to what I did in my PhD, but in a new environment. So, and after doing that, I found something that I really love doing. So I'm really fortunate that I tried to do new things, honestly.
I love that. And you said two things with two keywords in this advice. One is getting out of their comfort zone, which is very painful, but you have to do it. And the other one was soul searching. And I think it's very important to turn off the noise and then look inside and be honest with
Yes.
yourself. What do you want to do? What makes you happy? And take into account, geographically what's available in the area. Are you willing to move? Yes or no? Do you have a family? Do you have a
Right.
spouse? That are you looking for one job, or are you looking for two jobs?
Right. Exactly. No, I
So
agree with that 100% because one of the big motivators for me um, moving out from Pittsburgh and moving into another job. And fortunately, it was a remote that allows me to still be flexible because right now my wife still doesn't know where she's going to do her residency. And now I don't have to stress about, oh, like, oh, I got to quit my job to find a new
yeah,
job where she's going to move. I'm happy that Vector Builder gives me the support that if I need to go somewhere else, they'll be like, Joe, it's okay. So
yeah,
being
yeah,
able to find a job that helps you provide that flexibility and comfort really is also important. So it's just part of like that soul searching, right? Just trying to find that perfect match for you. If you know a company really has your personal interests in line as well, just because they know that if you're happy, you'll be happy in the company. That's really important to note. And I'm not sure if many companies do that, or I was just lucky that I fell where I am right now,
yeah.
and that they give me that support. But yeah, that's something I think we should look for in our next job as well.
No, I
Something that'll
agree.
make you feel happy and comfortable and fits with your career goals and your family and life goals.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think there is a laundry list to be made as to, okay, priority number one, soul searching, and then figuring out what works for you, for me, where do you want to work? what city, what kind of work you want to do, and then finding the good match, networking, and through applying to jobs, and then actually doing it,
Right.
you know. Awesome. If you'd go back in time, what advice would you give yourself? And how far back would you go back in time?
Uh, I think I would probably go to like my second, third year of PhD because I think that's where I knew I really liked molecular biology and I was really in the swing of it. But then at the same time, I could have maybe started looking for more network opportunities outside of academia because towards the end of my PhD, I knew that I'm not really sure what I want to do after graduating. So giving myself that advice of like, hey, there's other opportunities out there outside of just going to get a postdoc. Maybe you should consider looking into this company or looking at these other career opportunities and being like, you know what? Thanks, future Joe.
Yeah.
I'll look into it because I honestly wasn't sure where this was going. And that's kind of how I felt. Like
Yeah.
at that time, I was just doing research to finish everything up. And then when it got close, I was like, oh, what am I going to do next? I guess I'll keep doing more research, but just find somewhere else to do it.
Yeah.
But really having that opportunity to network and like find out what other opportunities exist outside of academia and industry um, really would have been helpful, I think. So that's probably the advice I would go give myself like halfway through my PhD.
Yeah. And then it goes back to giving yourself enough time.
Yeah,
As soon as you realize that this is not for me, and by that I mean academia, then you have to very quickly pivot and give yourself enough time while you're finishing up your studies, whether it's a PhD or a postdoc, to build
right.
that network and figure out what you want to do.
Exactly.
All right. How much do you think luck versus hard work helped you to get where you are today?
So I think there's definitely a combination of both, but I think it's more of being in the right place at the right time after working hard, right? So I know that during my PhD, I really enjoyed doing molecular biology and I really wanted to get really good at it. Like I wanted to do all the vector cloning. I wanted to do all the virus packaging I could do, make cell lines, use these cell lines in my experiments. And I really got good at it. I learned how to use the software to design the vectors and stuff. And I was really focused on getting good at that. And then that skill set really just made me shine when I interviewed at Vector Builder. And one of the reasons I say so that was the hard work, right, that I put in to like learn these skill sets that were very valuable for this particular job. But the being at the right place at the right time, I think also helps where I started to look for these remote opportunities and I looked on LinkedIn and on I forget what's the other one. Indeed. Anyway, I was like doing on all these websites looking for different job opportunities, and I actually got approached by a recruiter. So that was maybe you could say it is a little bit of luck, but I think also, like I mentioned before, just
Yeah.
timing lined up for both me and the recruiter, right? To
Yeah.
connect. And they introduced me to Vector Builder, and I was like, hey, this seems really cool because I have this really cool molecular biology skill set that I think I can apply here. And that led to the interview where we both, me and the interviewers, connected really well. And I was like, yeah, this is a place where I think I can take the skill set I really enjoyed from my PhD and just apply it to something new. So yeah, definitely a combination of hard work, some luck, and then just have being having those opportunities come up.
I agree. And you mentioned, recruiter and LinkedIn. I think what's very important to highlight is if anyone wants, actually, everybody should have
I
a
think so too.
LinkedIn page. I think it's important because that's your calling card. You don't need to have, you can if you want to and have time to have your own website, but everybody's on LinkedIn. Recruiters are on LinkedIn. If you update your LinkedIn on time properly and you are very detailed, then recruiters can find you. and introduce you to potential employers. And you never know. You never know. For
Yeah.
example, my first job out of academia was through a recruiter.
Mhm.
I set up my LinkedIn. I was as a profile for a research bench scientist, and that's the job I got. The first From the moment I got introduced to the hiring manager to the moment I got hired at that first job, 6 weeks went by.
Right.
And then when I was switching, it took me 6 months.
Mhm.
And the last one or two opportunities, I wasn't looking. I just had recruiters reach out to me.
Exactly.
One other interesting thing is, even though not you but anyone in general, even though you may not be as a person looking for a new job, it's always a good thing to talk to recruiters. One, you can get to know them. Two, you can also say, well, I'm not interested, but I know someone.
Right.
And so from the get-go, with one contact from a recruiter, you've actually helped maybe potentially two people.
Yes, I agree.
And that's networking.
Hmm. No, I agree 100% with that, because even if you cannot benefit at the moment, you can help someone else, help, like what happened to me, right? Help get that person right, be in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
And sometimes just networking helps that happen more often.
Exactly. I typically always respond. I sometimes get these emails from previous recruiters I that reach out to me, and if I know someone, I will always respond no matter what. But I always, if I know someone, I'll tell them, okay, let me introduce you to this person. It may or may not work out, but at least I've done my part in helping two people get connected.
Right.
All right. Last but not least, any other words of wisdom for the audience?
Honestly, like I said before, just soul search. Don't be afraid to go outside your comfort zone. Find something you really, truly want to do and you think you can excel your current skill set in. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing something that you love to do, be it in a new environment or something you've already been doing for a while, it's just going to make you happier, right? And if you're happier, then you work better. So,
Exactly. And it comes
uh,
through.
yeah, it does. And being able to like network and really just go out of your way to learn a little bit more about new things helps a lot. And it's honestly something maybe I didn't do at the very beginning of my PhD or even mid towards my PhD, and something that, we said before, I wish I could go back to my past self and tell him to, hey, look into these other opportunities. So
Yeah.
really do try to spread your wings a little bit to try to find new opportunities, learn about how you could fit in those different roles, and really figure out, hey, look, spark a conversation with someone who works there or with a recruiter or even in an interview, right?
Sure.
And see if like that would actually be a good fit for you and somewhere where you could see yourself working and being happy.
No, I absolutely agree. I was just thinking about the fact that, you never know when these things come together. And going through mentally through the conversation we just had, I think everything prepared you to be in the role that you're having today. You're a teaching assistant, so you learned communication skills. You're very good at what you do and you enjoy it, and that comes through. So then when you answer a customer's email promptly without even them asking, that's already amazing, because they don't even have to think. They know that Joe is going to get us the answers. But also having the ability to give them what they need from a scientific perspective, I think that just takes it over the top.
Right. No, 100%. I agree with that.
And the dedication, I think, also, since you're enjoy doing it, that comes through very, very quickly and very easily. And I think that
Yes.
absolutely came through today.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, I just want to help out as many people as I can, be it like if they're using our services, that's one way. But if it's other opportunities, it's just to chat with people. I'm always happy to do that as well. Um, like you can find me on LinkedIn, and if you want to strike a conversation with me, anybody who's listening, I'm happy to do so as well. Learn about what, like a little bit more of how I transition into academia
Yeah.
to industry. I know that when I gave the talk at the University of Michigan to for Alex's group, I had a lot of people come up afterwards and really like talk to me about that personally. Like, so yeah, I heard about like your family situation, and like I kind of have a similar thing going on, and or they're really still like stuck in that. I'm not sure if I want to try this. That's outside academia. So yeah, just having people to talk to really helps with that. And it's something I did, right? I had my friend first who I talked to, and I'm like, how are you enjoying working outside academia? He told me it was great. And I'm like, well, let's try to see if it's great for me. And it ended up being great. So work, being able to spread the word to people and really like share your experiences helps a lot.
Thank you for that, Joe. And people will be able to find you and your LinkedIn information on our website as soon as the podcast is released. We will also be sending you an email to tell you it's been released, and we'll be tagging you on LinkedIn for sure.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being so generous. Thank you. It was a fantastic conversation.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you as well. And honestly, just being able to talk about opportunities, as long as it can help someone out there, it really would make me feel very nice as well. And then, if you allowed, I guess I could let people hearing know we at Vector we are hiring. So if they're interested in that, just reach out to me as well. Yeah, like if you want to try something new, Vector Builder currently does have opportunities to do that.
That is actually a great point. Let's talk about it once we stop recording. So as I mentioned to you, with Life Career Job right now, we're focusing on the podcast. But very quickly, now that you mentioned job opportunities, we should have a job board.
That would be awesome, actually.
Yeah, the goal eventually we want to do it, but now that you mentioned it, we might precipitate the avenue of that job board very quickly, and then we can share it with our audience as well.
Of course.
Super. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording. We're going to let people wonder what we talk about after we stop recording.
Sounds good.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Moving from academia to industry is challenging. Dear listeners, welcome to the Life Career Job Podcast. Join us as we explore the inspiring journeys of STEM PhD scientists who have successfully transitioned from academia to the dynamic world of biotech, biopharma, VC, and beyond. Discover the diverse roles of our guests as they open up about their current and past positions. They shed light on their day-to-day responsibilities, the impact of their work, and their work-life balance. Whether it's in research and development, leadership roles, or even investment banking, each episode provides a unique perspective on the thriving opportunities within these roles. We'll also bring you expert advice on everything from how to dress for an interview, how to negotiate your employment package, how to ask for a promotion, and beyond. Life Career Job is a platform that we are building to help you navigate the challenges of finding your dream STEM job and building your ideal career path so that you can have the whole life that you want. We hope to serve as a beacon of guidance and inspiration in the tumultuous seas of STEM career path exploration. I am your host, Dr. Yamina Bershish, a passionate advocate for career advancement and the creator behind the very successful Dr. GPCR podcast and ecosystem. I obtained my PhD in biochemistry at the University of Montreal. This was followed by 2 postdocs, one at the Rockefeller University in New York City and a second at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Less than 11 months before COVID-19 hit, I moved to a senior scientist position at a small biotech company here in the Boston area. Since then, I've worked in sales and marketing at a global life sciences company and in commercialization at a nonprofit organization. And I am now back in the exciting world of biotech. I've also established Dr. GPCR, a not-for-profit ecosystem dedicating to uniting stakeholders with a shared interest in G protein-coupled receptors, also known as GPCRs. GPCRs are a family of proteins that allow you to see, smell, and taste, and are also targeted by almost 50% of FDA-approved drugs. Driven by a mission to improve human health through collaboration and innovation in GPCR drug discovery, Dr. GPCR serves as a nexus for scientists and stakeholders from academia and the private sector, fostering dialogue and catalyzing progress in this vital field. With Life Career Job, we aim to empower you, STEM PhD professionals, in your career journeys. In the episodes to come, I will have the privilege of engaging in candid conversations with guests from diverse careers, each offering invaluable insight and wisdom gained from their personal journeys. Together, we would unravel the intricacies of career trajectories, sharing practical advice and inspiration to embolden you in forging your own path towards professional fulfillment. As we launch into this exciting endeavor, I invite you to join us on this journey of discovery. Subscribe to our podcast on your preferred platform and explore our website, where we endeavor to extend our support beyond the confines of the airwaves. Stay tuned for more as together we navigate the boundless horizons of career and life fulfillment. Until next time, stay safe.